Pacers win game one of preseason play. It takes overtime. It takes some shot making in the extra period from the deep reserves, but they get it done. The starters were good, and yet two injuries at the same position. We've heard this before. We have a lot to get to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the reigning Eastern Conference champion Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today they have played a game. The 2025-26 Pacers have kind of begun. Preseason is underway. They beat the Timberwolves in overtime. The result's not that important, but everybody likes hearing about wins more than losses, right? Long game, crazy game, and yet the stories are about injuries. The stories are about a really nice start from the core rotation. Some deeper guys were good, and I have lots of notes on basically everyone who played. A couple guys just kind of snuck through with that was a night that they'd expect from them. And it's just nice to have a real game against real opponents to talk about. The Wolves did not play Jaden McDaniels, but basically played all their real guys besides that. Anthony Edwards was out there. He was guarded by Ben Mathurin and Jarris Walker all night. They played huge with Gobert, Naz Reid, and Julius Randle at the same time. So still some testing things for the Pacers in this game. And that's kind of generically where I would start is if you zoom out really far, the competitive part of the game, I would consider the first half, maybe more realistically, the first 20 or so minutes, I guess the whole first half. And the Pacers were ahead for basically all of that and comfortably ahead for much of it, up by as much as 16 in the second quarter. Their lead was, I believe, 7 at halftime. The rotation part of the Pacers looked good, right? And that's the starting point takeaway for any preseason game is the guys that are likely to matter a lot this season or figure a lot into their plans and their level of success, all to me displayed a comfortability to play with each other. And that should be obvious, right? Because they all have played together a gazillion times over the last really 2 seasons. This is a very continuity heavy group after their Eastern Conference Finals run. Nembhard, Mathurin, Jackson, Siakam, Nesmith, Toppin, Walker, McConnell, all a part of that. And we'll get to TJ McConnell, don't worry. But without Tyrese Haliburton, you wonder, and the discussions have come about how the system's going to work, how this is all going to, flow right away. And it's just thing to thing to thing at the beginning of the game. They all look very comfortable and ready to go, right? And you expect that, but I think that seeing their pace be there, to me, the thing that stood out the most when it came to their connectivity as a unit was their transition and spacing principles. Those are words Rick Carlisle loves to use, were really on point, right? When they raced up in transition, and this extended to guys who even aren't necessarily the best at this. They were getting to the right spots on the floor, and that alone led to a lot of open jumpers, right? Aaron Nesmith, 4 of his 5 shots were threes. They were all fairly open. Pascal Siakam, over half of his shots were threes. They were fairly open. Nembhard took 2 of his 6 shots from deep. Toppin took 2 of his 3 shots from deep. Furphy was in the rotation. 2 of his 6 shots were from deep. Basically everybody who played on the perimeter except for Ben Mathurin and TJ McConnell took a help. And those are 2 you'd kind of expect, although Mathurin can certainly shoot, were comfortable getting open threes in this game. And they were just moving it around guy to guy to make that happen or flying up the floor. I thought that was all very comfortable. I thought that was all very, already established-ish for the Pacers, albeit to the extent that they're adjusting this season with the group that they have. So that's obviously very encouraging. Right? That to me is where they would walk away this game with the biggest smile, is that those guys who are, if they played the Minnesota Timberwolves, they played them early in the season, right? Their first road trip. If they play the Wolves in 3 weeks, like they do, they'll be happy with that performance from them in that game too, right? That was, of course, encouraging. And then the bench group was rockier than the starters, certainly. But if you split apart those groups, the starters were certainly better. They were great together when they were out there. The bench group had a little more rocky moments. They, of course, lost TJ McConnell pretty early in the game. They had, Furphy was in the rotation last year. Huff is very new to the team. But in general, they were fine, too, even with Tony Bradley filling in for a spell early in the game with both the starters and the second unit because of Isaiah Jackson foul trouble. Talon Peter played real rotation minutes in the first half because of who's available. DeLon Wright played real rotation minutes. We'll, of course, get to him as well. Even with different guys in and out from last year, that group looked at least credibly good at times as well. So they were a little worse than the starters, certainly. But the key and the most important takeaway is the players that figured to matter all played pretty well. And the style was exactly kind of how they said it would be. It's even less different than I maybe thought it might be kind of early. We heard on media day over and over and over, the standard is the standard. They want to play how they've played. They've established this way. They want to keep doing it. And I think that's probably their best way to be fresh and solid next season, albeit they could add more versatility by pivoting a different direction. But they look comfortable and good in that style as well. Even guys who haven't really played in it before, which is good from top to bottom. So that's a stamp of approval on the training camp process that they've had. So that's what I would say would be the good, positive takeaways from a win. And then how they actually got it done. Well, it took overtime. They were awesome to start the third quarter. They went up over 20. I think their biggest lead was 24. Yes, that's exactly right. It felt like they were going to coast at that point. And then the rest of the game, Minnesota was better. They cut it to 1. Pacers went back up double digits. Minnesota tied it by the end. Minnesota took a lead in overtime. Pacers did win the game. The reserve unit did literally exactly enough. Ray J. Dennis, Jalen Slauson came in with 19 minutes and 13 seconds to go in this game, just a few minutes to go in the third quarter, and then they played the rest of the way in, including overtime. The Pacers lost the stretch with those two on the floor, and I'm not picking on these players. This is just the stretch of game I'm talking about. They lost those minutes by 20, right? It was not a good close for them, but they did enough to win because, one, the players I already mentioned, the starters, the bench guys, the reserves were all good. Every starter except for Isaiah Jackson, because of his early foul trouble, was plus 10 or better, right? They were all very connected. They were all making shots. They all defended well enough in this game, right? I thought that was actually pretty noteworthy, too. They held Ant to 6 for 15. Conley didn't take a shot. Gobert was fairly ineffective, outside of Julius Randle making some. Julius Randle was very good in this game. Nobody really killed the important players in this game. Their defense was solid enough, and they did well on the glass. We'll talk about that in just a second. But that was part of it, is they built a huge lead with their core rotation guys. And then in overtime, to actually get over the hump, Ray J. Dennis was hot from deep. He hits 4 threes late in this game. He leads the team with 16 points. Took him 11 shots to get there, but he also had 5 assists. He was a very capable floor general leader type for that group. He did have 2 turnovers, but he was huge in actually sealing the deal in the extra period. Jalen Slauson hit 3 threes. I think all of them were in overtime. That was pretty important. Jarris Walker came in to be a lead ball handler, and they still were kind of carried by Ray J. Dennis down the stretch. So after they built a good enough cushion with their rotation guys, they did give away their lead, but they got just enough, and I would say the leaders of that late group were Dennis and Slauson, to actually close out the game and win. And then the stylistic thing that I think a lot of people were kind of talking about or tweeting about, and I would say one of these things was a little overrated or overstated, and the other thing was not, is one was, of course, the pace and the tempo, and oh, look, that's the Pacers. But, specifically the trade-offs that came with that from the glass, from, rebounding and how this would go. They still had, I'm double checking this, I think 30 fast break points was the Pacers number by the end of the game. And for some reason, I think I'm now on the wrong tab to actually see that number. Thank you, NBA.com box scores. Yes, 28 fast break points for the Pacers, 18 for the Wolves, and then good rebounding numbers for the Pacers in this game. They finished with 49 against a big Wolves team who finished with 41, right? They started Reed, Gobert, and Randle. You wonder, is this going to be a tough rebounding night, a tough size night for the Pacers? They did pretty well there. I'll say this, though, early in the game, they updated the rebound since I last checked. 50-41 is the final on the glass in favor of the Pacers. I'll say this, though, a lot of people early were like, wow, first quarter, the rebounding was so exceptional for the Pacers. Only one guy had 2 defensive rebounds in the first quarter for the Pacers. It was Tony Bradley. Everybody else had 1 or fewer, and they had 4 offensive rebounds, and they weren't real offensive rebounds. It was the ball bounces long, and it just happens to hit you in the hands. Offensive rebounds. McConnell got one of those. Nemhard got one of those, and Mathurin got one of those. I think Isaiah Jackson had the only actual offensive rebound. So I do think they had a good, solid, given the size they were going against, just general rebounding game. And that's a trend to watch, is how they mix in rebounding with the pace they want to play, especially with a completely changed front court. But in general, I thought that people were way, way, way too aggressive. But they're wow, they look amazing on the glass early. Yeah, the numbers are good, but the ball just is bouncing. Right. Then it did have some really quality box outs at times in this game. And of course, 50-41 is great against a good Wolves team, and a win is good. We know it's not good in the preseason. Pretty much the only thing you don't want in the preseason, an injury. And they got two of them to the same position. Deja vu in many ways, albeit in different reasons from last season. TJ McConnell goes down. DeLon Wright goes down. What does it mean? What happens instead? Do we have enough information to actually make concrete decisions about this? Let's talk about that coming up here on Locked On Pacers. Before we get to that, we need to talk about Monarch Money. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. We don't have the full picture. You can end up leaving money on the table. That is why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface right on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. They do the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and feel in control of your money without touching a spreadsheet. You can see, for example, inefficient investments. You can see forgotten 401ks. You can maximize your investments. You can increase your savings rate and review finances with a partner or advisor. Keep a clear view of your financial health and do not let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. How about that? That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Make Locked On Timberwolves your second listen. Hear about the other side of this game, or Locked On Phillies. I have to make them a second listen suggestion. My favorite team. I'm wearing the hat. They are sad. They're making me sad. Baseball is making me sad. I'm sure people will wonder why I always wear a Mariners hat. I just like the colors and like that hat. Phillies are, in fact, my favorite team, but it's been sad. Okay, let's keep it going here. With the injuries, definitely the biggest non-basketball story from this game. And literally the only thing you do not want in preseason is injuries. TJ McConnell, after 8 minutes of play, reaching for his left leg. It kind of like he's reaching for the front and the back. I couldn't really tell. I thought it might have been his thigh or his groin. It's his hamstring. Intentionally fouls to get out of the game, kind of limped off. Look, muscle things are just straight up never good, right? People will be like, oh, it could be short. We don't know. Like, yes, we don't know. There's a chance he's ready by the regular season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know how long TJ McConnell is going to be out, but like muscle stuff is very rarely like he's great the next day. And if it's a sore hamstring, I'm sure they'll be cautious with it, this weekend or at practice this week. So I'm not going to make any, quick, oh my gosh, the panic. They got an injury at point guard, but I would highly doubt this is just like a snap your fingers, it's gone. He's ready to go against OKC and San Antonio this weekend. We will see, but they should be cautious, even if he is ready to go very quickly, because muscle injuries, you need to go away and not be a lingering thing into the regular season, especially for a key player. And we'll talk about why they're such key players, of course, in a second. And I say they because that was not the only injury. Of course, the Pacers had another one. It was DeLon Wright, who was handling the ball, and Jalen Clark came over to try to steal it, or like it was already kind of loose, and they just smacked heads, and DeLon Wright's head hit the floor, so he had like double contact, and then his lip was bleeding when the broadcast caught him, and then his by his eye and the side of his head was bleeding. Ooh, really tough. He did not return. They both didn't even get the questionable chance. They both were just announced as out. I wonder if Wright went through concussion protocol. We don't have the information on that yet. I'm just wondering, because of head-to-head contact, that would be a penalty even in the NFL. It was tough to see that. Even Clark didn't play. He had like a neck injury and didn't play in the second half. It was tough contact. And Wright, who we'll talk about his effectiveness in the third segment, but he is their third point guard. He is filling in as the backup one with McConnell out. They're already missing Haliburton. Like, this is like the worst possible position for them to lose a player, and they lose two. So full stop, like, that is not good. That is very bad for the Pacers. I think they need to hope. But I think they need to hope. I mean, they'll definitely be hoping that neither of them will be missing significant time or time into the regular season. We'll see if they keep Wright. We don't even know that yet, because his contract is fully non-guaranteed. It's Exhibit 9, so he's like got small injury protections, but they could, just get someone else if they need to. But the first guy they wanted, Monte Morris, was also hurt. Like, the point guard injury carousel extends to players not even on the Pacers. So this is bad, right? So here's the only what I would call silver lining of this is what we saw happen in the game is that they're not just maybe fortune is not the perfect word because they were strategic in this and they're good players. They are not just like all right, Andrew Nembhard's the point starter and the backup is shrug. Like that, they're not that level of screwed at the one right now, to be clear. Quentin Jackson is still on this team. Quentin Jackson was good. We'll talk about him. I don't have a ton of notes on him because he only played like 10 minutes, but he was really good in this game. He made his only shot. He had 4 assists, which is important because like the only knock on him for most people, I've said this a few times, like not getting a standard spot is he's not like a true point guard, but man, he was slicing and dicing today. He's just so fast with the ball. They still have Quentin Jackson. Like people will talk about him getting converted. I'll probably bring it up, especially when we know more about the severity of these injuries, right? That's still technically a thing that could happen as a veteran. They don't have to because he's on the team. He has a contract with not the Pacers. They could just have him for 50 games on this two-way. So he was solid, and he has been solid for them in the past. And I made the case that maybe they should convert him before they signed veterans, although I still think a veteran makes more sense for them. And they also have Ray J. Dennis, who they clearly like. They brought him back. Well, first of all, they signed him to a 2-year two-way when they got him, and they really liked what he did last year in the G League. He's a really good floor general type. Again, 5 assists. I think that led the team. Yeah, he led the team in points and assists in this game. Developing jumper, like certainly an organizer. I'll never forget him in the G League telling other players where to go and calling plays like 3 weeks after he signed with the team. So they have right this second in training camp. They're not like crap. Who's going to be our backup point guards? How are we going to put together teams for training camp rosters? They have guys. That is good. But like what they saw today, and even in overtime, right, of this game, overtime happens in this basketball game, and the Wolves' bigs, air quotes, in that extra period were Alize Johnson, an ex-Pacer, and Enrique Freeman at times, also an ex-Pacer. And then like very small amount of time they had Rocco Sicasari on there. I got that right. But most of the time it was like very small groups for Minnesota out there late, which I'm bringing up to say they took out James Wiseman and put in Jarris Walker. And some people wondered, like, oh man, like I don't feel like Jarris looked very good in that overtime. And I would agree with them, but my reason would be like he's not a lead ball handler yet. He's just not, right? Even if he's done that before or he's developing in that way, he's just kind of not. Nembhard can be, I guess Siakam can be, but he's not like diming up his teammates or running the show. So outside of those guys, and Mathurin can certainly handle the ball, but again, not a set up other guys kind of dude. Like they don't have a non-two-way guy now that McConnell and Wright are hurt that you're like, yeah, they could be the emergency one. That's why it's good they have these two guys on the two ways, but I think clearly we need to know more before we can make any sort of designations. If DeLon Wright has a concussion and he's going to miss a week or two, do they bother just cutting him and trying to bring a different point guard in for the rest of camp just to get a look at somebody to try to get a body in? Is Monte Morris healthy now? Could they do the double switcheroo there? Like what could that look like? If McConnell's not actually out for that long, does it even matter what they decide to do? I think the length of the injuries will determine what their course of action needs to be, but already at the position, missing Tyrese Haliburton, losing 2 other point guards or 2 other guys who you'd figure would be in their ball handling rotation is so painful in the same game. And it changed their rotation significantly, and they'll have to pick up the pieces now. But I would say any sort of instant reaction is, of course, 1, injury is bad. 2, we need to know the severity to know what they are going to do about it. Because right now, especially because their regular season opener is not for still over 2 weeks, like they have a little bit of time to get healthy, but they still have to figure. Like one of the guys is, is he even going to make the team? Like they still have to figure out stuff with that position, even if the guys are hurt, right? So that we need to know the severity to talk about this perfectly. It's very bad. It's not good. We just went through a season all collectively watching this team play with a position where they lost 2 of their top 3 to injury really quickly at center last year. So it's certainly possible to have more flexibility this year, but it's not a good thing. We will see how the Pacers handle it and what this means. I'll say this. I'm not going to talk about, I have no McConnell notes really, but he was awesome before he got hurt, right? Splitting defenders at the top of his own, getting to his little spots, flicked in 3 jumpers, 3 assists, no turnovers. Like he looked like TJ McConnell, certainly, right? Not a guy who had an offseason and is the oldest guy on the team. We'll talk about Wright because I have notes about him in the third segment, but that is bad. And I think any immediate reaction would be just that. It's bad. Immediate reaction 2 would be we need to know severity to have a true discussion about what happens next. But I would say the immediate, if we don't know severity, would be the 2A guys will have to become more important for the rest of camp, and the Pacers will have to hope that those two can be healthy by the start of the season if they're planning to keep both. Of course, I wrote about DeLon Wright the day that this happens. It's my fault. Okay, I have so many scattered notes from this game on like most players who played. We're going to run through all of them, what mattered, what didn't, from Pacers preseason game 1 to close out today's Locked On Pacers. Before we get to any of that, we got to talk about FanDuel. The NFL season is here. New week coming up tomorrow, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss right now. If you're a new customer on FanDuel, you can bet just $5. If that bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5. If it hits, kaboom, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the FanDuel app to do so many things. A lot of interesting options there that people love, like how they give you more ways to play, build parlays, follow live lines during games, player props, whatever you're into, they can do. And it makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan, whether you love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the free FanDuel app today and get started. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be either Locked On Bucks or Locked On Knicks. Whoa! Giannis considered the Knicks. Is this actually even possible from a trade perspective? What should the Bucks do? Ooh, that was a doozy. Shams Charania all over that. Locked On Bucks, Locked On Knicks. We'll have plenty more. Okay, let's rapid fire run through a bajillion notes about a million players because I have a lot. Okay. I typed them in random places, so we're not even going to go in like a rhyme or reason order. Aaron Nesmith looked very efficient. Shots were falling. His first take was a very comfortable drive around a defender, and he drew a foul. 4 free throw attempts, the most of anyone who played less than 15 minutes. Johnny Furphy led the Pacers with 6 free throw attempts. Ray J. Dennis also got to the line a number of times in this game, but just efficient shooting, movement, etc. Nesmith. Pascal Siakam was just spectacular. He's so good. He's going to be their best player. We knew that, but he was great right away. His shot looked good. He was quick with the trigger when he felt like he was open. He got an offensive rebound, pulled it out for a 3 attempt at one point. He's just been awesome with the reads. His shot was going in. He looked great. That's obviously encouraging to see. Ben Mathurin made some tough shots. Both of his first 2 makes were like, whoa, that was tough. The second one was particularly impressive. I think the biggest thing I noticed from him, especially as it comes to being different from last year, was how he was running and where to in transition, just right to the spot, even with the ball or without it. That's something that Rick Carlisle talked about in the offseason that he needed to work on. Andrew Nembhard, my only note on him was he was getting places with the ball, right? To the shots specifically, but to the spot he wanted to get to if he's going to keep the offense moving, be a guy who can be the engine both as a scorer or a passer. He's got to be able to get the defense in rotation. It makes all the passes easier. It opens up space for everybody. I thought he did a pretty good job in this game being mobile himself and moving things around. So I would say, both those 4 starters I've already talked about had pretty solid days. They all shot, 50% or better. They were all plus 10 or better, like I said. The 5th starter did not have a great start to preseason. Isaiah Jackson. The biggest problem with Isaiah Jackson for some of his career has been fouls. Can't stay on the floor. If you're going to be a starter, even on a team where you're on a center by committee situation where being a starter probably doesn't even demand more than 25 minutes a night, you can't foul 3 times in less than 200 seconds. That was way too fast. He was out of the game so quickly. He didn't do anything in that first stint. It was impossible to get a feel for even what he was supposed to do. He got some boards. He was fighting with Gobert in the glass, but that was bad. Like, that was not a good thing. His second stint was way better. Defensive movement was good. 3 rebounds in the end was good. Didn't foul at all during his second 7-minute stint, right? So we need a second game to know if this was just like a disaster 2 minutes or a concerning trend. It has been a thing in his career, but really rough start for him. That got cleaned up, but he didn't make a shot either. He did make some free throws. So Isaiah Jackson, not a good start for him. The guy I had by far the most notes on was Jarris Walker. Like, his first trip onto the floor, his first, maybe not his first touch, but one of his first touches, the Jarris Walker turnover I've talked about a million times, where he beats a man. He's kind of created space where a defense is reacting to what he does. They pull in to stop him. Do they get out to the shooter? Obi Toppin's open in the corner, and he just Like, instead of just ripping a perfect pass over to Obi in the corner, he like gets a little too cute with it, one hand, and it flies in the crowd. Like, it's right there. You did it all perfect. The read, you got the right read, and then the pass itself was just off. But he got a lot of reps defending Ant. I thought that was a good thing the Pacers did. He was popping into the paint really well when other guys were cutting and driving. I thought he was very, attentive off the ball as an offensive player. His handle was a little loose in this one. I just think, like, I'm a Jarris believer still. Pretty strong Jarris believer, I would say. Like, the game's eventually going to slow down like 5% more for him, maybe 5 to 10%, and he's just going to look great. Like, he's going to know where the ball should move. He's going to hit the guys. His timing's going to be good. He can get around guys. He can shoot. It's just he's a little overtasked as a lead creator right now, and sometimes I just feel like his mind is moving that much, 5% faster than his body, and it leads to some of these things. You're like, oh, it's so close to clicking for him. But he looked a lot more comfortable in the second half when he was with the groups that had Quentin Jackson out there, especially. I tried to say specifically and especially at the same time and just malfunctioned. But he was much better in those groups, as was Furphy. Those two together in the second half were quite impressive. So he definitely picked things up and was better in the second half. But I had a lot of notes about him. Tony Bradley only played in the first half stint when Isaiah Jackson had foul trouble. He was a beast on the glass, as usual. Kept Rudy Gobert off of it. A very nice 5 minutes from Tony Bradley. That's nothing new, but noticeably good, especially as I mentioned earlier when I thought rebounding was getting overhyped. Jay Huff, first game against other opponents for the Pacers after being the passing darling of FanJam. 3 for 4 in this game, 3 boards. I thought the most noteworthy thing he did was his defense. 2 blocks. He was good around the rim defensively, and then had one defensive play where he did a great job staying with the ball handler when they were kind of trapping, and the defense fell asleep under the basket on the weak side. Not Huff's fault, but I thought his defense was really good. His high contests were really nice. He had a behind-the-back pass attempt for his only turnover, but I thought he was very comfortable. His offense was solid. That made me encouraged about his fit in the system, especially, again, the passing being there would be such a big thing for him. Johnny Furphy's first half, when he was playing with rotation guys, not the greatest stretch for Johnny Furphy. In the first half, he went 0 for 0 with 3 turnovers. I think the thing that stood out the most in that half and those errors were like when he had to deal with pressure from a defender, his handle just got too tight and he couldn't do anything. He couldn't move at all. He had to get rid of it. In the second half, he was just like exponentially better. I mean, it was like a different player came out of the halftime tunnel. He plays 13 and a half minutes in the second half, scores 11 points, 2 boards, only 1 turnover. He cleaned things up quite a bit in that second half. He was very good. People were asking me like, wow, should Furphy play? Look at this half. He had another monster dunk. I'm like, you saw the first half, right? So I would like to see more Furphy because of a very up and down game from him. DeLon Wright, I already talked about his injury. He came in, really great D-rep, right? When he comes in, forced 3 guys to lose their handle or give up a pass. His offense was not good. His dribble, he could kind of shift and get across half court, but he couldn't get anywhere. And he too was dealing with some pressure of defenders in a way that I thought, oh boy, they need him to be I get that he's a defense first guy, and that's why you'd want him, but he needs to be a little more than that on offense. If he's going to be their third guard, we'll see what his injuries could be. The other guys I have notes on are all much deeper in the rotation. Quentin Jackson played real minutes in this game. Yeah, about Quentin Jackson at this point. He looked better than DeLon Wright on offense. His speed is just no one else has it. Completely cooked Bones Highland on a drive to the rim in this game. It like clean beat from a dead stop behind the perimeter. I'll never be able to quit Quentin Jackson. He also had 4 assists, really solid game from him. They absolutely dominated when he was on the floor. Ray J. Dennis, the jumper's huge. He just makes guys get on skates. I can't explain why. I just feel like his shot's going to be a thing. And then Talon Peter, I guess I like the Exhibit 10 guys for different reasons, but the last guy I have notes on, Talon Peter, he can just play, man. Like his defense is solid. He moves really well. The shots go in. He's doing good stuff almost every minute he's on the floor. And I always say this with role players. If you can shoot or you can defend, there is a role for you on a team. Maybe not every night, maybe not every team, but there is a role for you in the NBA. Doug McDermott has going on 12-year career because he can just shoot. Talon Peter we'll see. It's been a single preseason game, but the college stats, he goes 4 for 8 in this game, 2 for 6 from deep, 5 boards, 2 steals, I believe. Yes. He might be able to do both. We'll see. He is 6'3". He's going to have some limitations on the type of positions he can guard. But, basically from Summer League onward, the Talon Peter experience has been, That's pretty interesting. So the Pacers, I thought, did well handling the huge Wolves, like Aaron Nesmith's first preseason game. You're on Naz Reid. Good luck, right? They did an okay job with Ant, Mathurin, and Walker getting credit for that, although he did just miss some threes. They pressed a lot. I should have said that in the first segment. They're still doing that, even in preseason. That's totally going to be a thing for them come regular season time. But in general, the competitive part of the game, they were good. That took them less than 16 and a half minutes to score 50 points. A lot of their deep bench guys were solid to good, but some up and down play from some guys. 2 point guards get hurt, and they move on to the next one on Saturday against the OKC Thunder. So now 3 days off for them to digest this all and tell us about the injuries at some point this week. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow talking more about what the Pacers can do at point guard, the roster battle, all sorts of stuff. If you have any topic suggestions right now, I'd be up for it. And I'll try to have a guest Friday to talk about matchups in the East or something to that effect. Injuries at point guard, we'll see. Depends how the week goes. Thank you all so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East. This podcast is on certain social media platforms at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking more Pacers. Till then, everybody have a wonderful day.